This week, Microsoft released its Game Pass streaming for the browser into a limited beta. But what the hell does that mean? Well, right now, Microsoft is allowing people into the beta by invite only, and to receive one of these invites, you will need to be an active Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. I, however, am an active Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, but receive no such email. But when I went to go and log into the beta and give it a try, so I've left a link to the beta in the description down below. Email or not, if you're an active subscriber, it's definitely worth going to check it out. So quick TLDR, Game Pass streaming has been available in its current beta form for Android for over a year now, and in that time we've continuously revisited it and ultimately come to the same conclusions. Playing games on your phone is great for convenience, but not for at home like most of us are nowadays. The 720 resolution was only just about passable here in 2021, and the streaming side of their technology was lacking compared with the likes of the graphical fidelity and input latency experienced on services like Stadia and GeForce Now. But now, with this new limited beta, xCloud/Xbox Game Pass streaming, whatever Microsoft is going to decide to call it now, is available for the first time on iOS and PC. I mean, legitimately this time without running any Android emulators. And with this, resolution gets a much needed push up to 1080. That means right now, Xbox Game Pass streaming, let's call it that, currently gets you access to 247 games at the time of recording this video at 1080 60 FPS through the browser for $14.99 in the US or $10.99 in the UK. So yes, this week I jumped in and streamed a good number of games through the Chrome browser, but seeing as this is the week of release and the service is, being absolutely hammered with traffic, and also their sneaky little beta label, it would be unfair of me to fully review the service in its current form. So today is going to be more of a first impressions based on my time with the new streaming method so far. Jumping over to the homepage, initial thoughts, the layout of the library is very similar to the xCloud Android app, very clean, I like it, and unlike PlayStation Now, it has this new fancy feature called a search bar? Yeah, I like it. But most importantly, let's talk about the performance. How did it run? Is playing games even viable? So first, let's call out, this is based on my experience using a wired connection with a download speed of 350 megs and however far away I am from the nearest data center. So your experience may vary. The biggest improvement by far is the noticeable reduction in input latency compared with playing on the Android app. Okay, right. Whoa. Oh, hello. That is probably the most responsive I have ever seen Game Pass streaming. I'm impressed. Again, it's fair to contribute some of this to the switch from Wi-Fi on my phone to the hardwired connection of my PC. However, a change on Microsoft's side in the streaming software also plays a big role in this, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But unfortunately, while the input latency was greatly improved, for us fidelity snobs, issues with the streaming still result in a fair amount of pixelation, especially when there is a lot happening on screen at once or fast movements. Look at all the squares. Now, in our time testing, the severity of this pixelation actually kind of fluctuated, so it's hard to tell if it varies from game to game or is just impacted by the time of day and server traffic, so, the amount of people who are also trying to play at the same time. Another massive improvement in the streaming was actually the audio. This can sometimes be taken for granted, but game studios invest a lot of time and money into every sound effect and every soundtrack, and let's be honest, if the sound starts popping and stuttering, it can make you want to stop playing pretty quick. To make our testing fair, we jumped into a variety of game genres like FPS, racing, fighting, and platformers, just to get a feel for if there are any genres which I wouldn't personally recommend streaming through this service. The answer to this pretty much aligns to my thoughts on most cloud gaming services at the moment. Single player campaign, absolutely fine. Online multiplayer, sure, go for it. Online competitive, possible, but be aware you are at a disadvantage. But when jumping in and out of these genres, it definitely felt like some games were struggling more than others. Most noticeably was Outriders. However, we can probably genuinely put this one down to the game's poor optimization and the fact that it's still struggling to some degree on next-gen consoles and regular PCs, while Xbox Game Pass streaming is still using Xbox One S hardware in their server blades. That is for the time being. As we spoke about in the past, Microsoft has stated the hardware is due to be upgraded to Xbox Series X hardware sometime this year. Personally, I'm expecting some delay on this timeline based on the current hardware shortages. And finally, on that note, let's talk about load time, another big factor that can discourage me from wanting to jump into a particular platform. In this case, the wait time between clicking a game on the library and having the game start was actually pretty minimal. Compared to the likes of GeForce Now, there was obviously no other services to log into, like Steam or Ubisoft, and no annoying two-factor authentication, which, honestly, that messy journey alone is sometimes enough to discourage me from launching a game in GeForce Now. That being said, the time between a game opening and you actually being able to play it is still pretty substantial. But again, we can put these slow loading times down to the Xbox One S hardware, so fingers crossed this is something that will improve with the upgrade. So we mentioned one of the ways Microsoft has been able to improve the streaming quality was a change in streaming software. Microsoft has actually partnered with video streaming service Rainway. Commenting on the new partnership, Rainway CEO Andrew Sampson states, "It was our efforts in the browser that put us on Microsoft's radar. You see, a Microsoft engineer used Rainway Gaming for a last-minute demo of Azure's infrastructure in Africa. Our consumer product delivered 1080p at 60 FPS gameplay to Chrome with no issues over the Azure backbone." So, as he stated, although the Microsoft Azure architecture sits behind this service, the Rainway SDK is used to handle, quote, all the complex cross-platform media presentation, input, and browser interoperability so that Microsoft's engineers can focus on building a fantastic product user experience. In contrast, Rainway's team of engineers handles the logistics of making sure streams are smooth, and as some have described, making gameplay indistinguishable from being native. Now, I personally am not one of those people, but again, early days, still in a beta form, and I'm honestly interested to see what this relatively small software company can accomplish with the financial backing of Microsoft, or, let's face it, Microsoft may just buy them. It's in their nature. So, as I mentioned, this was just my first impressions based on some initial testing this week, but I'm excited to see the quality of the service improve over time. This week alone, the value of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate has risen substantially as the browser workaround alone opens up the platform to over 1.5 billion iOS users. The ease of access has definitely improved. I'm honestly more likely to jump in and launch a game from Game Pass streaming in the browser than I am to set up my Razer Kishi controller with my phone. And even though these titles are also available in Game Pass for PC, that just means dedicating precious hard drive space and, waiting to download. That's a level of dedication that I'm not looking for. So the ability to jump in and out of these games with no downloads is definitely a win for me. But that's me. As always, I want to hear from you guys. Did you get a beta invite to Xbox Game Pass streaming? If so, what's your experience been like so far? Would you recommend it? Any and all thoughts? Let me know in those comments down below. But if you enjoyed this video, you found it somewhat helpful, a like rating would be appreciated. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.